Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wednesday edition on my YouTube channel. For those that are subscribed, you already know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to give out my starts and sits for week 7. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do so you can keep up all the latest content that I'm publishing on this channel going forward. So let's just go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to give you guys my top starts for the quarterback position. Starting with Ryan Tannehill, the Titans coming off that huge upset on Monday night against the Titans. This week they got the Chiefs. Chiefs have been having one of the worst defenses this year, and you always gotta love the potential of a fantasy quarterback getting involved with a shootout. So that's why I think Ryan Tannehill is not only a good play because of that, but the numbers back it up. The Kansas City Chiefs have allowed the second most points per game to the quarterback position. They've been giving out 25 points a game. So if you're looking for a streamable quarterback this week, I think Ryan Tannehill is definitely a guy you should definitely consider. Now this other guy, I'm not sure. I wrote this up last night. Anybody that watched the waiver wire targets and streamable defenses video, no, I already talked about this guy. Please go back and watch that, by the way, if you haven't. But it came out roughly a couple hours ago that Tua Tagovailoa might be involved with a trade over these next few weeks up until the trade deadline, which I think is November 2nd. It came out, it's been rumored pretty heavily that Deshaun Watson might get traded to the Dolphins. Some respectable people that came out this afternoon made it sound like it might happen this week or at least by the trade deadline. That would obviously put Tua on the move. And I've heard spots like the Broncos, the Washington football team. There's some other teams I believe too that could be involved, but those have been so far the two reported teams. And then like 45 minutes later, there's guys denying the rumors. So who knows what's going to happen with that. So since it's not official, I decided I wanted to stick with this because I definitely like the matchup. But yeah, Tua Tagovailoa against the Falcons this week. Atlanta right now has allowed the fourth most points per game to quarterbacks. They're giving up 22.2 points a game. I like the connection. He established this past weekend with Jalen Waddle. I assume they'll probably get Devontae Parker back in that lineup, so he's got some weapons he can spread the ball to and pick apart this terrible Atlanta defense. And then moving on to my sits. Now, you guys are probably looking at me crazy right now, like, Cody, you're really telling me to sit Tom Brady, or you're telling me to sit Jalen Hurts, who maybe has not been the greatest real life quarterback, but he's been a very good and productive starting fantasy quarterback. My main thing with these guys, temper your expectations if you play them, because I understand you're probably forced your hand to play certain players this week, especially with all the injuries and buys that people are dealing with. But starting with Tom Brady against the Bears, if anybody remembers the Bucks on that I think it was a Thursday night game. I know it was a primetime game, but the Bears beat them. Tom Brady had one of his rougher games last year. That was one of the games that everybody was questioning if this Tampa team was going to do anything with Brady. Remember when he held up the number 4, and it was he thought it was fourth down, but it was actually they already did the fourth down. They turned over the ball, which ended up costing that game. So I mean, you could base it off of that. The numbers also say the Chicago has allowed the 9th fewest points allowed against the quarterback position. They're giving up 16.6 points per game, so they're not crazy good against them, but they're obviously a top 10 defense. So going with last year's matchup and them being a top 10 defense against quarterbacks this year, if you can, maybe consider somebody else. But if you play them, I get it. Just temper your expectations. My sit with Jalen Hurts, he's going against the Raiders. The Raiders right now have allowed the 10th fewest points allowed against the quarterback position, giving up 16.8. So that's the factor in there. I kind of explained last night. I thought the Raiders could be a good streamable defense this week because I like the ability that their front four can create pressure on Jalen, force him to early decisions, maybe get some sacks and turnovers against him. So Jalen's coming off kind of a rough performance too against the Cowboys. So I mean, I get it. He's been very productive though as a fantasy quarterback, but if you do play him, he has a rough game. Just understand he's going against a top 10 defense against the quarterback position in fantasy football. Now let's go ahead and move on to my running backs. My top start of the week is Darrell Henderson against the Lions. Pretty simple. He's a lead back in a Sean McVay offense that is going against the Lions this week, and they have allowed the most points per game against running backs. They have allowed 27.4. So Yeah, fire him up if you got him on your roster. You don't have to think twice about it. My other start is he's coming off a nice little game last week. It's going to be Damian Harris against the Jets. The Jets have allowed the second most allowed points per game. Against running backs, they have allowed 24.6. Again, he's the lead guy in a kind of a more of a rush heavy offense. So I expect him to get to see plenty of touches, and I could see him cracking that end zone at least once or twice against New York on Sunday. And then moving on to my sits, I think Devontae Parker against the Panthers. The Panthers right now have allowed the fewest points per game to running backs. They've given up 12.3. So it's a very stout defense against the rushing attack. And I could just see them having to lean more on Daniel Jones and that passing attack in New York. And I could see a very mediocre performance out of Booker, where he's not going to give you as much as you would hope him to do, especially if you are counting on him. But if you have another option, I would consider sliding them ahead of Booker in there in your lineup. And then my other sit is it's a duo because I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about Damian Williams getting activated off the COVID list. But even if he doesn't, I would still be hesitant to play Khalil Herbert this week. Not only because if Damian Williams comes back, we don't know how much they're going to split the role. But even if Damian Williams doesn't play, they're going against one of the best defensive fronts, if not the best defensive front in the NFL. Against Tampa Bay, they've allowed the second fewest points per game against the running backs, only allowing 13.1. So, you're talking about in both these matchups for the sit running back position, these are backups going against one of the top defensive fronts, especially against running backs this year. So I don't like that. That usually does not end well for those running backs. So if you have any options, I would consider doing that as well, to playing other players. Now I'm gonna go ahead and move into my wide receiver position. This is these two of these guys right here at the top of the starts and sits. They are playing tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. So if you got them, you should go ahead and slide them into your lineup. But I think you should be able to play with confidence Courtland Sutton or Tim Patrick. They are going against the Browns. The Browns have allowed the fifth most allowed points per game against the wide receiver position, giving up 27.7 points a game. I really do think you probably should play Tim Patrick if you have him. Because his value is going to decrease in the coming weeks, if not by next week. There's been reported Jerry Jeudy's in that 21-day window where he can be activated to the IR. Off the IR to the active roster. And so it sounds like he's practicing this week, but the plan is obviously he's not going to play tomorrow. With it being a short week, but I would not be surprised if we hear him probably be coming back next week for Denver. So if you got Tim Patrick, he's been giving you good values off the waivers, but his time is almost coming to an end when Jerry Jeudy gets back. And then Courtland Sutton's still a stud, but he's been the lead guy in that room. But when Jerry Jeudy comes back, obviously that's going to cut into his touches as well. So if you got those guys, play them while their value is probably at the highest it will be this season. And my other start, a guy coming off his breakout rookie performance, is Jalen Waddle. He's going against the Falcons this week. Again, like I talked about Tua last night and just recently, Atlanta's defense has been really bad this year, so you like the matchup. Atlanta has allowed the 10th most points per game to wide receivers this year. They've given up 26.9. And then at Devontae, you think he'd be back by now, but if any reason Devontae gets ruled out again, Jalen's going to get heavily targeted like he did this past Sunday. And I think, assuming they keep Tua, I think I hope their offense, their coach learned that you got to get Jalen involved as often as possible because that's what led to their touchdown drive. So I like this matchup as well for Jalen against the Falcons. And then my sit of the week, I'm going with Jacoby Myers against the Jets. The Jets have not a lot of points to the wide receivers this year. They've only given up the third fewest points per game to wide receivers, giving up 15.7. So you definitely you don't like the matchup where you don't think like I said, Damian Harris could get going in this matchup. That's going to be more of a run-heavy offense. The clock's going to tick, and then if the New England Patriots blow out the Jets like they did earlier this season, that means there's not going to be a lot of passing attempts. So you would hope Jacoby gets early action, can find the end zone early. Otherwise, he could have a very down day for you. And then my other sit, I'm going with the rookie, Devontae Smith against the Raiders. The Raiders, their pass defense has been sneakily good this year, especially with the addition of the veteran Casey Hayward. He's really helped them out inside the slot. That's sometimes where they might line up Devontae in this offense. And the Raiders, the numbers kind of back it up here. They've allowed the fourth fewest points per game to wide receivers this year. They're only giving up 18.3. So if you got another option you could slide in of over Jacoby Myers or Devontae Smith, I would definitely consider doing that. And then go ahead. Can't talk here, getting a little tongue twisted there. Go ahead and wrap this up at the tight end position. Man, this is a very I would say this top start for me it's definitely a roll of the dice. You're talking about Zach Ertz, who just got traded to the Cardinals, and then he's in a very heavily he's in heavy competition for targets in an offense that was already pretty crowded as far as who's going to get the ball on any given week. But we saw Max Williams be productive at the tight end position for the Cardinals, so you got to assume he's going to at least handle some of those snaps this weekend. I don't know if he's going to handle the boatload of snaps, but if he can get involved, I could see him getting 5 to 6 targets in this game at the most, but I can see him taking advantage of it because of the matchup. They are going against the Houston Texans. 2 weeks ago, we saw Hunter Henry catch a touchdown against them. Last week, Mo Alie-Cox caught a touchdown against them. So you're really gambling on the fact that Zach Ertz is going to find the end zone with Arizona in his first game. And, you got to look at it too. The Texans have allowed the second most points per game to tight ends, sitting at 12.8. So if you're looking for somebody to stream, if you're desperate for somebody to stream, I would definitely consider Zach Ertz this week. My other start, I'm going with the Cincinnati tight end, CJ Uzomah against the Ravens. He's showing up for the Bengals throughout the year. That's another room. It's kind of crowded. You don't know when you want to play that tight end in that Cincinnati offense. But you got to like the matchup this week. They're going against the Ravens, who have allowed the 5th most allowed points per game against the tight ends. They're giving up 11.6. So all you need them to do is find the end zone. I mean, if you don't have one of the elite ones, I mean, that's basically what you're doing. So the numbers say to lean on these guys. The numbers say these defenses have given up a lot of points to tight ends. So if you were looking for a streamable option, I would consider Zach Ertz or CJ Uzomah this week. And streaming options I would definitely not consider. One is Gerald Everett against the Saints. The Saints have allowed the 4th fewest points per game to tight ends, sitting at 4.4. They got the rookie Pete Warner playing really good at the linebacker spot. They still got Demario Davis. They got a good defensive front that can get after Geno Smith. And I just get to see a rough night, it'll be a night. It's a Monday night game. It'll be a rough night for Geno. So if you're considering Gerald Everett, because we saw Geno target him, on that Sunday night matchup, I don't like that matchup this week, so I would avoid him if you can. And as sad as it is, my boy Mo Alie-Cox, I propped him up as a start the past couple weeks. But this is the week I think you should definitely sit him and avoid streaming Big Mo. With the Colts, they're going against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers got a really good covers linebacker, and why am I drawing a blank on that kid's name? The kid from BYU. I should know his name, but sorry, now I'm going to have to look it up because why am I drawing a blank on my recording? This is something I should have already had. Yeah, Fred Warner. How does that not? I knew it was Warner. I was forgetting the first name. But yeah, Fred Warner is one of the better coverage linebackers in the league. So I could see that be taking up some of the space where they could target Mo in the passing attack. And, numbers back it up. 6th fewest allowed points per game against the tight end position, giving up only 4.8. So just don't like that matchup for Mo. I know he's put on some good strong performances if people streamed them over the last 2 weeks, but I could see this being a down week for him, and then maybe getting some of the wide receivers more involved on Sunday night. So yeah, that's my start sit video, guys. I hope you did enjoy this video as always. If you ever have any fantasy questions, don't be afraid to ask. You can hit me up in my DMs on Twitter at Cody Talks NFL. You can just straight up at me in public on Cody Talks NFL on Twitter. I'll make sure I respond to that. Yeah, anybody knows if you got my number, shoot me a text. I'm always down to talk football. Other than that, guys, please like this video if you haven't yet. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Go check out the Prospect Encyclopedia at prospectencyclopedia.com. As you know, you can get it for $15. Individual teams PDFs are $1. Always can check out the Buck section for free, and then you can always make that purchase later if that does indeed press you. Other than that, I'll be back on Saturday when I give my normal week 7 preview video. And then, like I said, if you want to talk ball, hit me up on Twitter at Cody Talks NFL. I'll see you guys on Saturday.